All that being said, I'd like to now ask you to consider a learning process that most human children move through. We're going to switch gears for a moment here. It is a process that most parents find joy in. It is the process of learning to walk. When we have kids, we rejoice in their first steps. We chuckle over their bow-legged gait. We urge them to take risks. Come on, you can do it. How many times have you said that? You can do it. You can do it. Come on. Oh, look at you. You can do it. When they fell down, how often did we try to help them laugh it off? Oh, you fell down and went boom. Let's try again. In this discussion, we don't question the value of failure. We don't question the process. We actually encourage the necessary risk because we as adults have the 30,000-foot view. We know that the process of having the dream of a prima ballerina, an NHL hockey player, or a kid that plays in the World Series all starts with the scrapes and bruises of falling down to go boom. We all see this higher ideal. We all see an answered prayer in the struggles and failures that surround this experience. But somehow, as we mature, we lose sight of two incredibly important things. The first is that we learn to fear failure. We try to avoid the pain of legitimate learning as if the discomfort of falling down or making a mistake is something we cannot tolerate. The second, for some reason, most people tend to see God as separate from the problem. In general, healthy parents don't scream at their toddlers and tell them what losers they are for falling down. In general, healthy parents have the vision of the game-winning pass at the high school homecoming game. They accept that a process will occur. They know it will take time. But somehow, we lose sight of that vision. Somehow, we develop the expectation that learning processes, life processes, should unfold according to a plan that we have, and that somehow an all-powerful, all-knowing higher power is somehow separate from the problems that we face. We have this model. We're taught this model that somehow God is not present in the problem. So we're taught that we need to intercede. We're taught that we have to ask for outcomes. We have this idea that God delivers conditional solutions. If I'm good enough. Here's the Santa Claus image of God again. And we have the illusion. We have the illusion that the universe solves problems the way that we do. And that it's all about how we might solve a problem. And in reality, what the process of the 12 steps or a spiritual solution teaches you is to come to understand that separation does not exist. Just like in every stumbling toddler, there is the possibility of a Joe Heisman. In every stumbling little girl resides a Dorothy Hamill. The process is one of learning new skills, dealing with the obstacles that are presented, gaining new perspectives, opportunities to practice new behavior. I promise you right now that every single person in this room would have the opportunity to play Rachmaninoff at Carnegie Hall. Every single one of you has that in you. The problem is not that you can't play. The problem is that you haven't learned yet how. And it's not even a problem, because were you to sit down 30 minutes a day for the next 5 years, day by day, mistake by mistake, I should say error by error, you would begin to learn the skills that are necessary for you to perform Rachmaninoff at Carnegie Hall. The problem is not separate from the solution. The problem is part of the continuum of evolution. But we fail to see it that way. We, as a culture, have a tendency to fear failure. We have a tendency to want to focus only on what we perceive as success. Many of us, many people I know, particularly people who are working through the spirituality continuum, struggle with this idea of God writing straight with crooked lines. And they struggle with it because at the end of the day, as much as they say they want God's will, thy will, not mine, be done, when it comes to practical application, their fear is so great that somehow the God of their understanding will drop them on their heads, that they delve into the worry curve, jump into control and manipulation, and never get the opportunity to understand peace and serenity. An important part of this judgment dynamic is the understanding that circumstances does not define a man. It reveals him to himself. We're taught to judge circumstance as being good or bad. We're taught to make these judgment calls on the basis of right or wrong. We fail to see, we fail to recognize in our rush to immediate judgment of what we think things should look like. We fail to see where it's impossible for us to see. The 5-time Nobel Peace Prize laureate, or potential laureate, in a man on death row in Pelican Bay. We lose sight of the process. We don't want to tolerate the discomfort that seeing ourselves often generates. We fail to remember or recognize that unsettled is the state of becoming. Everything we want is outside our comfort zone. And the only thing that differentiates a stumbling block from a stepping stone is the way in which we employ it. So one of the greatest lessons about this idea of suspending judgment is to step back and begin to look at your life as a process, most particularly as a spiritual process. Remove the judgment paradigm. Let go of the outcome. Focus on what is in front of you in this moment, and don't ask, why is this happening to me? Teach yourself to ask, why is this happening for me? And if you begin this process and you surrender this peace, you will begin to see miracles occurring around you, leading you to the place that you really want to go on a detour that you could never have predicted.